Morning, Nick. How's your Sunday?
It's fine.
Fun day? You get to work with me and Andy. Work with Andy Herzog on his log job here. Oh, we're getting some logs out, making a little production here. Trying to get it to where a log truck can get them easily. Had some requests to show some things about the log cart, so I thought we'd do that. This log cart's been around a bit. I think I got it in 1997 or 8. Used to have bigger wheels. A buddy borrowed it and took those off. And these wheels work. I think I like the 8 1/4 wheels better. Definitely for skid and tree length, I like the 8 1/4 by 20-inch wheels better. If I'm hauling doubles, I like the littler wheels. Typical of most of these carts. Of course, we smashed the seat off a bunch of times. We're sitting on some padding. Typical of most of these carts, it's got this slotted drawbar here. And that's, just hook your chokers right in there. Got a place to put your PV. We can hang some lunches and water, log tapes, stuff like that. The standard used to be a little better. That got smashed up through the years. We used to be able to hang a chainsaw on there. One thing I specifically did, put a whip holder on there. It's kind of nice for backing up a colt. I don't have the best setup here for this hammer snapper, but it works. You can see it's got bent when it's, yeah, we bent it again today, but it's got bent here and there. Nice, easy on and off. Why don't you show how easy it is to get on and off, Nick? Whoop, hey, let me show you the lines. So that's how we hang the lines on it. Of course, it helps to be 22 years old. I use my pulling eveners on here. That way I can set a horse in or out, and they're good and rugged. They are getting a little thin here. We'll build some new welding up. And I also like that they're short. They do make an even shorter model I might try on here someday. Get you closer to the hitch. Go up front. Hello, Ugly Jim. You can see our tongue is adjustable in and out for length for different size teams. And sometimes that's convenient. Putting in a trailer or hauling it, it makes it shorter. End of the tongue. Right now we're using a D-ring harness. So we got the neck yoke and the jockeys here. Nothing between the collar and here like we've showed before. How about you, Zodiac? Here's specifically what I had a question about. There's somebody asked a question. Nick, why don't you hop down and demonstrate the release hitch? Mine is a simple design. It's just a bar here that rolls. Let me lift up on this. There we go. All right, trip her out. See that? Let me go to the other side. Okay, show it, Nick. That's simple. Boom. That's how you release your logs, because the logs get lifted high and there's no slack to lift them. Sometimes we'll even hook a log. We'll hook a link in there and we'll step on that and flip it. We do it a lot. Probably not a good idea. If your horses took off, you'd have a broken leg. But we haven't broke a leg yet, have we?
Nope.
Not on man nor beast. It's kind of simple and it works. It's fairly similar to like a Pioneer cart. This is a arch style. Nothing behind it here. No drawbar or anything, just a couple of braces. We can drive over a stump or a rock or something like that. This morning we drove right the length of a big log. My dad used to hook the chokers back. And you can see we do. You can see where it dug into this soft maple. We used to hook the chokers back a little ways and get some of that weight out front. And more of the weight, when your log is suspended out here more of the weight is on the rolling wheels than it is being dragged. Makes it pull easier. Just a side note here. This is a curly little dude, and I'm hoping it's curly all the way up, and I'm hoping the log buyer sees it. So that's our cart. That's our trip release. There's a lot of variations. I don't think I'd change much at all if I was to build a brand new one. Of course, I'd put the seat back on in good shape. I've thought about making this tongue flexible, kind of like a 518 Caterpillar skidder or something like that. And that way the cart can rock and the team stays where it is. Maybe even putting a spring, instead of putting a spring on here, but put the spring right built into the tongue. But, you know, I've thought about it, but I never have. So here's something. You look at all the slack we have in those lines when viewed. They're hanging right down. Nick's got them hanging on the standard, and there's a lot of slack. And yet they're held right up high. That is our double spreaders at work, and that's how they work. Trying to take a picture as I'm doing a video and I hit the wrong button. Zodi. I think I'm taking a picture. Tell you what, I'm gonna do a little tutorial on these double spreaders. Nick, why don't you help me? You film. Okay, we're gonna do a little tutorial on the double spreaders. The first thing I like about double spreaders, it keeps the lines way up here, not down here. You'll never have a line over the tongue. It also keeps the center of the lines where they cross back here. If you look, we're about 4 inches behind the hames on each of these horses. I'll take them out of the spreaders and demonstrate, and we'll be 4 to 6 inches ahead of the hames and hanging lower. It does not make your horses walk any wider. I can narrow them right up on a 33-inch evener for a 12-inch plow just as easy with these double spreaders as not. A single spreader can make your team out wider, but a double doesn't. So we're gonna do something that's a bad idea here. We're gonna unhook lines while the teams are hooked and nobody's watching them. Maybe you'll see a runaway. Again, lines with a snap are not our preference, but this is a darn good old set of lines, and it's what I like to use in the woods, actually. Not because of the snaps, just because I like the lines. Yeah. So there's how your lines hang without spreaders. But boy, I should have let him yank his head, because that'll pull things loose a little when he yanks his head. The more they do that, the more these lines sag, and the more likely they are to get under a tongue or one of these deals. Jim's a well-behaved horse, but, you know, over a horse's mouth or something like that. Zodiac's not as well-behaved. He likes to do stupid stuff. Now, if you notice right here where the lines cross, we're 6, 8 or more inches ahead of the hames. When we had our spreaders, they were back here. That's what holds them up nice. I'll give you a little tutorial on how to use double spreaders. You always go through the short spreader first, which is on the same horse, that, you know, just like going through your hame ring. Short spreader first, and then you cross over here and you go to the long spreader. Hook it right into the bit. Short spreader first. Hook it into the long spreader. And there you go. Now, another point that I like to always make about double spreaders, and there's still the same amount of slack you just saw, and yet look at where the lines are and look at how they're hanging. Again, they're 6 inches behind the hames as opposed to 8 inches ahead of them. But another point I like to make, well, let's do one of each, so I show that point. So Jim's line is through the double spreaders. Zodiac's line is not. That's a fairly good illustration there. But if you notice where Jim's bit is pulling is straight back on his mouth to that spreader. It pulls straight back. If you notice Zodiac's bit, he's pulling sideways over here. It's actually pulling a bit sideways on his mouth as opposed to straight back. That's just another advantage of these double spreaders. So, like I say, short spreader first, and then through your long spreader. Now, I've been thinking, and I haven't tried it. If you're only going to use one spreader, there's almost another way to do it, and I'm going to try it right here. So if I only have one spreader, I don't have double spreaders, I think what I would do is I'd put it right through the ham ring like you always do. And then I'd put it through the long spreader. And then I pull Jim around here. These horses just got rained on. Now they're a little itchy. And from here, through the ham ring, I don't think that's as good as double spreaders, but I think it's better than nothing. It does. It keeps your spreader, your lines up, and it pulls straight back on the horse's mouth. Let me drive him a step and see. Catch them if they run away, Nick.
Mm-hmm.
No, Nick, focus on the spreaders as we drive them. Back, back. That doesn't work as well as double spreaders. Whoa. But it does seem to work better than nothing. That's an option you have if you only have one spreader. Whoa. Whoa. I don't think that's a good... I'm going to prefer double spreaders. And the spreaders we're going to be selling will be double spreaders of the traditional style. But if that's all you have, or you break a spreader, I think what I just did is better than nothing. So we're going to thread them through. Again, first thing, short spreader. Second thing, long spreader. I'm going to try to put a diagram together when we sell these sets. So, speaking of selling spreaders, we're going to be at Horse Progress Days, July 5th and 6th. And we're going to have double spreaders. We're going to bring some sets to sell. We're going to have a booth down there. It's going to be with the Draft Horse Journal right next to them. We're going to share a booth. We're going to have center rings. We don't have them yet, but they're coming like early next week, boy. Center rings with our logo on there. We're going to insert a logo picture there. And hats with our logo on them. We're going to be selling that stuff at Horse Progress Days. And we'll probably be selling it online soon enough. But, anyway, just kind of wanted to show our cart and our setup. And we've showed this 100 times, but this is our D-ring harness setup. And this is why I like the D-ring. Look at there, no weight. I'll just unhook that. There's 0 straps on this team between the end of the tongue and the collar. All the weight is supported on the back where it should be, none on the collar. And I've said it 100 times, the advantage is the collar stays stiff. When this tongue sways, the collar doesn't. Or if the tongue rides up, the collar doesn't. The collar stays stiff no matter what that tongue does. And I could put a lot of weight on there. A lean 210 pounds. How about more like a fat 235 pounds? Sitting right on here, nothing. And there's still all the weight is on the horse's back. Now it has to be a well-adjusted D-ring to have that. And there are tricks to adjusting these D-rings. The first trick, as Les Barden always taught, 22 inches. From there to here, 22 inches. Anything longer will get you in trouble. It'll just put this back too far and you're not lifting the weight. Hook your heel chains really tight. That's the other advantage. The other way to lift that, keep that tongue laid up. And you have to hook this kind of short, this front strap, but not so short it hits them in the brisket. I'm going to insert a picture here, of Zodiac on one of the first log jobs he did, and I had this piece hooked too short and it was hitting him. And I saw it in the picture and we adjusted otherwise. Zodiac's done peeing. Let's show his harness, Nick. Zodiac's got a nice old leather harness. This piece is too long. And you notice I don't have anything on the hame here, which really sucks when you go to hang that. It just doesn't hang well. But I like that extra piece on here. But I had to take it off to gain the shorter length, to lose some length. We're going to have this shortened and put that piece back on there. But even with that, we have it adjusted where there's no weight on Zodiac's neck. When the horses are walking forward, the britchin hangs loose. When the horses are walking forward, when they're into a pull, you're less likely to rub hair on their butt because this britchin hangs nice and loose. So, kind of an ugly set of harnesses, but they work. They're functional. I decided just today that we're going to put aluminum hames on here. I have one other set of aluminum hames. One, I always say I like the hame to be in the top elevator, and these are in the middle. And that's fine. This hame straps right straight across. That's not an issue. But the bigger thing I like is those aluminum hames are a little shorter, like an old orchard type hame, and a little handier in the woods and in a short barn or a trailer or something like that. What do you got to add, Nick?
Awesome.
Should we get to work and move some more logs and get us a log truck?
Okay, yeah.
So yeah, July 5th and 6th, we're going to be at Horse Progress Days with the Draft Horse Journal. We'll share a booth, and we'll be selling double spreaders and center rings with our logo and hats. So we hope to see you there, and we hope to get into your wallet. Ha! Right in where I did before? Whoa. Right between me and you? I've been through there once. Okay. Is the name for cherry, the Latin name for cherry?
I don't know, what is it?
I don't know either. Huh. Thought maybe that Pembroke Academy education would help you out.
Yeah.
I did know once. Now I'm going to swing them up here, Nick, and then back them up to that big cherry. So, I do a couple things that I don't explain very well because I don't have an explanation. One is back. Let me back these guys out of that hemlock. Back. Woo. One is cutting up a log. I always tell you never to cut with that top tip of your bar. The first about 1.5 inches there on the top front of your bar. And yet when we cut a tree length up into logs, we go right under the log, and we are using that. And I've been challenged on that. I don't know what to tell you. We do it every time, but we don't get kickback. Maybe it's because there's trees, a lot of wood there between you and the saw. Another thing is something I do when I'm backing horses and turning them. Generally, whoa, I'm very much a one command at a time guy. I don't say whoa back or G back or anything. But what I will do, and my chirp is their signal to go. It's most people's get at. But what I will do is I will chirp and turn them or back them up at the same time. G. G. Woo. Woo. It kind of goes against my principles as a trainer, but it's something I do that it's always kind of worked. Woo. What I don't want is the horses backing up, ramming backwards as they're turning. I want them to turn and then back up. And when I chirp, that kind of tells them that. So feel free to call me out on my inconsistencies there. I'm consistent with that. That's inconsistent with the rest of my training. Back. Woo. So I'm going to use it right here. I'm up against this little thorn tree. G. G. Woo. And I just chirp so they know to kind of step ahead a little. Woo. Woo. Back. 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 Woo. G. Woo. Woo. Back. Woo. Wait a minute. Woo. Andy, how thorny, I know, but how bad would it be to cut them? That's okay. We got a decent cherry here that Nick's standing on. The only way for us to get it, because it is steep up there, is by the top end. That was the only way to follow this tree also. What we're going to do, Andy's going to cut, it's a pain, but we're going to cut those brush trees a little bit. That way we can get the cart up the hill by where Nick, the cameraman, is standing, right at the end of that log. What would happen if I hooked that chain from the end of the log down here? As soon as I pulled ahead, that cart would tip over. And that ain't fun, is it, Nick?
Yeah.
But if we cut those little brush trees, we'll be able to drive the horses right up there, back the cart up even, and we'll be on a lot better angle, less likely to tip the cart. I guess today's episode is about carts, log carts or arches, or I've even heard them called dollies. And jig carts is what the old boys called them when I was growing up. Almost all carts tip. All carts do tip. Usually the better or more effective they are, the more likely they are to tip. Woo. That. Whoa, hey, what's up with that? Gee. Woo. Back. 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 At least the feet worked this week, Andy.
Right?
Woo. That was a weird day. The weirdest part was it didn't even bother me.
Yeah. You just kind of folded up and kept going.
Woo. So be careful, Nick and Andy. Whoa. Back. Back. Woo. Gee. Woo. And it's a lot easier from here for me. Woo. Back. Woo.
Yeah.
Nick, take one hand and the camera with the other and tighten that up. There we go. I am one of those guys that if I could tighten one link closer, make it pull better, I do. Now, I do prefer to be hooked to the butt end of the log, which is considerably bigger and heavier, and have that up close. It's not always feasible, and that's not practical here because we couldn't get to fall the tree any different, and we couldn't go up the hill. What I say is, if you're hooked to that butt and you have it lifted, the heaviest part of the tree is being carried instead of dragged. It's easier to carry a load than drag a load, isn't it?
Yeah.
You sick of my rhetorical questions?
Yeah.
Can you film it? So here's what we do a lot of times to gain one more link and make this log pull easier. I release my trip and then I get it stuck in there. I put my hoof right on that lever, and I might have been a little too aggressive. Whoa. It's a good thing I got Andy helping.
Andy.
Andy wants to measure how far he needs to get away from that dumb horse.
Hey, that's 27.6.
Whoa. Here's a really good spot for us to get this lifted. As a matter of fact, this is not a little piece of wood. Let's put two chokers on it. Back. Back. We showed that trick a couple weeks ago, and here is a really good spot to use that trick again. Andy and I just did a little bit different. You watch your head, Andy. Woo. I think we'd be okay, but my pride isn't so strong that I can't have Andy watch their heads. And no, we're not going to have a runaway. So, putting one choker here. We showed this trick a couple weeks ago there, about a week ago on the logging in the mud video. One choker here, lifting from 1, 2, 3 o'clock rock. And we're going to put one choker here, lifting from 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 o'clock rock. You watch Happy Days, Nick?
Yep.
We're going to rock around the clock tonight. Back, 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 whoop, G, whoop, whoop, G, G, whoop, back, whoop, whoop. Now, as we showed in that previous video, one choker alone is only going to lift from right here at 12 o'clock. This big log isn't going to be lifted very much. Two chokers will lift from 9 and 3 and get this log lifted a little better. Here's another stupid tip that you shouldn't have to worry about if your horses are broke. I guarantee John Stevens there down the trail horse logging's laughing at me for having somebody head my horses the way they got those roans broke. If you do need somebody to watch their head, make your horses stand there for a few minutes before you start them. Here's something else. See that front tug on Zodiac and how it curls and it's stuck out there? That's because that's too long. That's why you need 22 inches between the D and the hang. Now, we got that log lifted. There's no ground friction. Spreaders, I want you to watch that tongue. A lot of times with a big load, a lot of carts, including this one, most all of them, the tongue will rise a little bit, which is good. It gets some weight off the collars and stuff, if you, depending on what harness you have. It can also be a pain, but I'm pointing it out more than anything. I'm not criticizing it, I'm just pointing it out. Whoa. That's a colt acting like a colt. Whoa. Whoa. Probably should have went all the way and I should have had a whip in my hand. I swatted him. Gee. About as hard as you'd swat a fly. Whoa. Whoa. And that's all it took for him to come up the rest of the way. He's getting some bad habits for a horse that young. By God, he's going to get over them. Get ahead of us and watch it again on the next one, Nick, or beside us, anywhere you can get a good view. We're going to let him rest. Then we're going to come on up the hill. Top, we'll rest them. One thing I want to point out when you're watching any of us horse loggers, any logger really, these hills are always a lot steeper than they look. It's just so hard to show perspective on camera. That was a pretty steep hill they just came up. That's why they had to work so hard at that. Sometimes it looks like flat ground when we watch these videos back, and you know damn well you couldn't stand up on it. Let's talk about Zodiac a little bit. He's quite new to his training. He can be a slow learner. He tries stuff that you never heard of. And yet he's getting better every day and he's getting to be a good workhorse and dependable. But he's still just a boy. Jim is Jim. Jim's a good horse. He's done it forever. But that's why we have somebody like Andy stand in front of them. Or that's why I had to swat his ass a little bit going up the hill there with this whip. I didn't hit him any harder than I'd hit a fly if I went to kill a fly. But he knew what the message was. Well, Nick, you want to hop on?
Sure.
Yeah, it's particularly important at this stage that they don't get away with that stuff. The easiest way to do that is not put them in a position where they want to get away with not doing what they're told. That was a slippery hill and they had to go up at a good distance. But we have another one right here and let's watch them crest this hill. Watch them from behind, or would you rather be in front? What's better video work, video man?
This works.
And look at them stomp. Look at them place each foot. Both horses. Zodiac's behind. He catches right up when he can. Whoa. That's what I like about these horses. They are nimble for heavy horses. Jim in particular, because he's very used to it. He plants every foot. He knows where that foot's going. he doesn't slip. Zodiac's really good for what stage he's in as far as that goes. These are called eveners, and they're just that. Zodiac got behind a little bit. I am working them on the even. They weigh just about the same. Probably for the really hard pulls, Zodiac should have an inch advantage, but there aren't enough hard pulls to make it worth doing that. Anyway, even if one horse is ahead, they're doing the same percentage of weight. That's why they're called eveners. It's important to give them good rest, and that's what they're getting. Well, you want to go out ahead and film us coming up the hill, Sonny boy?
Sure.
Shut it off.
Whoa! We're going to stop them right on the steep part. We're going to make them lean into the tugs. Notice how that's lifted from with the two choker setup. So we're carrying the log, we're suspending that, and we're carrying it on a rolling hitch between these two wheels. So I popped Zodiac in the ass back there, and I should have done it sooner. Truth is, I didn't want to do it in front of the camera. The hell with that. He needs it when he needs it. 2 minutes later, it's all over. You got to do it in the act, and that's when they learn the most. And I'm a firm believer in one little swish of this whip at the right time prevents a lot of issues later. It has to be well timed. It has to be in the act, not afterwards. I mean, 2 seconds later, it's over with, you know, once they've already stopped. That's also why he said whoa and stopped them. So I'm going to start them here. I don't anticipate trouble, but if everything's not right, I'll touch them a little bit here. Everything was right there. The horses were pulling good. They both did a good job. That was steep, and that's a hard pull, and they were doing fine. Therefore, I did not touch them. I also didn't speak to them. They're pulling. I don't need to say, get up, get her done, here, yeah, swish. As long as they're pulling, keep your mouth shut. You get done pulling, say, good boys, pat them, whatever you want. But you know, why tell them to pull when they already are pulling? And that's what I did there also. Now, if I see evidence that they're not going to pull, that they're going to back off a little bit, then I will say something. But I didn't see any evidence of that, and I kept my mouth shut. Well, whoops, I'm off my booty warmer. Which way did Andy say this goes? Like that?
Yeah, just like that.
Back in black. We're going to go up there beside that soft maple and park this cherry there, and we'll show this release hitch. Whoa. So we're lining these logs up, and we'll roll them together tighter later. The plan is so a log truck can drive right between them and load on each side. Decent cherry log here. So, this hitch bar here, you can't unhitch without it. If that didn't release, we can't unhitch. Because we have the log lifted, suspended up in the air nice. So, here's what we'll do. We got a lot of work here, me and you. we're gonna trip this. Keep your arm out of the way. And that's simple as that. Drops that hitch. Now, I ain't the smartest guy in the world, but I do know it's a hell of a lot easier one thing I know, it's a lot easier to get my chains all in order, so I know where they are and what chain to use at what time. I'm kind of fussy about that. I also know it's a lot easier for me to just hook that right back in and hook this right back in and pull those horses ahead and let them pull the chain out, as opposed to me trying by hand. There's a lot of designs card out there. I'd like to say this works best for me. What I should say is I got very used to this. I got a scale stick. Tell you what was in that little chair. That's a 12-footer. I know that for a couple reasons. One, I'm a log buyer, and I can tell a 12-footer when I see a 12-footer, and a 10 when I see a 10. Two, it's Andy Herzog cutting. He's a quality cutter, and he's going to cut the right lengths. 4, 8, 12 feet, 6 inches trim. That's perfect. That's why Andy's one of the best out there. So 12 feet by 24 inches. It's pretty straight up. How many of you people know what 12/24 is on a Doyle scale before I tell you? I've been a log buyer for a lot of years, and I should know, and I don't. The answer is 300 board feet we just got out. So if that's a $210 log, roughly. Back in the day, that would have been a $400 log. Prices are down on cherry. Nick, I'm going to roll this soft maple. I don't think this is what we were looking for. Down here on the end where we peeled the bark off from skidding, just a little curl here, not much. What we'll do before we sell this log, and we may cut it back to a 10 to get rid of this, although that's right in the heart. We may cut just a little cookie off, a little wafer, and break it and see if we can see the curl. What I'm talking about by curl is right here. I don't know. Again, it might be one of those camera illusions. It's hard to see. See that? It's kind of a corduroy pattern. It's kind of striped. Right there, I can feel it with my fingers. It feels like corduroy pants. That's curl. It's sought after for guitars. You know, watch Spinal Tap. And he's got that, you know, look at the flame on this guitar, and he's got an old Les Paul up there. That's what it is. It's the flame. It's that fancy grain on a lot of guitars. That comes from curly wood. So if this log is not curly, it's maybe a $100 log. If it is curly, it can be a $300 log pretty easily. Ooh. And if it's a little better quality log, it goes up from there. So the reason I do this extra work, because I need a workout for my fat butt. Now the reason I do this extra work is I want a log truck to be able to back up to one spot and reach. They're self-loading log trucks around here. Reach all the logs he can without moving. It makes the log truck driver a lot happier. If you notice, from here, coming out of the woods, we had very little ground impact. Look where the ground impact was when we dropped that log. That's where all the impact was. If we didn't have that lifted, we'd have had a lot all the way through the woods. We'd have disturbed the ground. We'd also made it pull really hard for the horses. That's why we lift them up. That's why we did the double chokers. It's why we lifted them. What do you think, Nick? Should we keep on making money?
Sure.
10-4, good buddy. So look at the lines as viewed from behind and how they pull straight back on the bit, keeps them up nice and neat. Look at Jim's britching as we go up this hill. Empty log cart, and look at all the slack in there. And Zodi's too, really. Zodi's is a little too tight, but that's a product of the D-ring harness being well adjusted. Particularly notice that when we're hooked to a log going uphill. Something else I want you to notice, we've skidded a few big logs through here, no ground impact, and that's because of having them lifted. Very little ground impact. Okay, Nick's standing in the trailer out of the rain to protect our phone, and I'm gonna be out here cutting. This is why we like this type of cart, so when we skid doubles or even triples, we have them lifted, and then we can cut them up, just like you would behind a log skidder or a good tractor or dozer or something. So I'm gonna cut this, and you'll see what I'm talking about. I'll cut down through and then up through, and we always avoid this tip of the bar. We're actually gonna drive that into the wood at one point, and even though we always tell you not to. Again, it's like me chirping when I turn the team. It's an anomaly, so.
As he drops his straw down on this side, you'll see the angle change a little bit. Maybe you won't on him. Yeah, it is just a little bit. And it helps do with it, make that not want to kick back so much.
Well, we got one log on the pallet grid, but it's on that side of the pallet.
You're good. I was wondering that with our truck earlier.
I don't know what happened.
What do you think, Andy? Are we going to call it a day? Nick,
That's plenty.
Keep filming. We'll show the oil change ramps and what we do. Tell you what, you duck into the back of the trailer where it's dry and I'll set them up. Run, run, run as fast as you can. So we're going to a different log job tomorrow morning. We're taking the cart home with us. Quite simply, this is what we do. We a couple of oil change ramps we set up. You filming, Nick?
Yep.
I want to show you something from the side view. Watch those front yokes on the horses. This is the D-ring harness and how it works. Watch it when I loosen this. Look how far that drops. So you go up and down, depending on how tight you hit. Up and down. I'm sure that's going to probably make a meme or something with me doing this motion here behind the horse, but whatever. We're Allegheny County almost. That's good. It's just easier. I find it easier for me to loosen one of these heel chains to back that in and then unhook it when I get up there. Here's what we'll do. Broke the horse a couple years ago. Now he belongs to Jerry Voorhees. His name is Dude. He's a beautiful horse. Ooh. He's going to win a lot of heavyweight pulls. First day we ever hooked him. Gee. Ooh. We needed to take the trailer to the woods the next day. First time that colt ever was hooked. That. Woo. We did that right there with him. That was an impressive thing. That is an intelligent young horse. And that's how we get our cart in the trailer. We could probably just drive the team in, but I feel better about unhitching them for the ride home. I guess, Nick, we got rained off. But it wasn't a bad day. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Andy. Gotcha, Nick.